Rewind almost 15 years ago and the Android ROM scene was absolutely thriving. We had nightly builds, tons of projects, we were really truly living through a golden age, and nowadays things have, well, they've changed significantly. But what happened to the custom ROM scene and can it be revived? Let's get into it in this video. Gang, I need you to hit the subscribe button though, as it helps make that subscriber number bigger, which helps me out, plus you get some nice things. Cheers. So when we take off our rose tinted glasses, there were really a lot of problems in those early days of Android. The biggest players at the time weren't so hot on the software side of things. We had update schedules which were, to put it lightly, pretty much atrocious. You might get a few months of updates with that brand new phone before they were seemingly abandoned or left to languish with little to no notable releases. To get updates, features, and to get rid of potentially awful bloat which did fill those older mobiles, unlocking the bootloader and flashing a custom ROM was a way to get a clean, or at least to clean up the experience and provide you with options out of the gate. CyanogenMod is etched in the memories of anyone who's used an Android phone pre-2015. It was the gold standard, offering a Nexus or Pixel-like experience without the bloat of TouchWiz or even HTC Sense or other builds out there. Those nightly builds also meant you were on the bleeding edge of what was happening, for better or worse, even if it broke your phone. The early Android days were definitely marked by projects that offered unique theming options, added common controls, improved performance, battery life, and provided us with options that made it feel like it was truly possible to do anything with your phone and make your phone truly your own. But the thing is, after years of allowing things to become a major problem, to the credit of many Android makers, the software and update problems have, well, they've almost been eradicated. Not everything is perfect, but from the mid-range up, I do think most brands offer solid support windows, regular updates, and most importantly, the core experience is vastly improved. Take for instance One UI and ColorOS. They are almost indistinguishable from the software versions that bore that same name just a decade ago. And a significant amount of functionality has actually been derived from custom ROMs and integrated into these skins that we're left with on modern flagship devices. The work of the fans behind those has actually benefited these brands long down the line. Everything from dark mode to custom icons within the default launcher was possible before brands decided to integrate them and add them into their own visions of Android. OnePlus even saw out CyanogenMod as the default for the firm's earliest devices. Now imagine them trying to do that now. I can't ever see that happening again, but relying on your bias to fix your software problems isn't a solid long-term strategy. But in the early days, I do think it actually kind of helped. And while we're waxing lyrical about the old days, ROM support has dwindled over the past 5 or so years, as fewer people actually now feel the need to unlock their devices. In most global regions, unlocked phones are now common or even default on cell plans. The common software or default software experience has also been improved drastically and mostly surpasses even all but the best custom ROMs today. It's a perfect storm of advances in just about every single area that has led to, sadly, less interest and desire from even tech-inclined people like myself to stick with modding their smartphones. Despite glowing praise, I do think many projects have been now abandoned, merged, or left incomplete, and not perfect if you need or want certain features. Modding is time-consuming too. You might need workarounds for certain functions like accessing your banking applications or using certain services on your phone. It really isn't for the faint-hearted. Sometimes it's understandable, you just want a phone that works, and that means many will just leave them behind. The effort of individuals who maintain the many Android ROMs that we know and love cannot be understated though, but there is a limit to how many smartphones can be supported by these core developers, how many updates can be pushed to these devices, and how long people do remain interested. Not everyone holds onto their phone for years, although it is getting longer and longer for most people, but things can fizzle out in that regard. New projects have definitely started to emerge from the ashes with different aims and similar objectives, though I think is a really good sign. So after CyanogenMod bit the dust, we had LineageOS, quite possibly I think the biggest custom ROM project that has ever existed, and provides the basis for many smaller ports and projects across Android, because Lineage has become the poster child for that post-2020 ROM scene on the platform. And while we praise the increased support window for many modern smartphones, there are still casualties from the incessant release cycle that we have. You might not like the default experience that ships with your phone as well, and like over a decade ago, you may have options. I say may because while LineageOS, the biggest project out there right now, is a great option, it doesn't cover or support every single device that gets a release. And it's also maintained by volunteers, which means devices come and go as people lose and interest wanes. Dropping in and out support as new versions of Android is released is also a big problem, and various builds start to integrate these new changes, which means, yeah, certain things do get left behind. Another popular ROM project is GrapheneOS, and this is a privacy-focused ROM that is built on the highest possible security standards for privacy as well. Much more limited than LineageOS as of early 2026, and as of this video going live, only the Google Pixel can actually install Graphene. And as a product, it's for those who want to untie their reliance on Google products and services and may require or want to use other alternative services for a cleaner experience. I do think that makes it very tough to recommend to non-techie people, but it is a fantastic project that we covered here on the channel, and it has a place in the mobile space and my heart as well. If you can deal with certain trade-offs, I don't think there are many other choices like this, period. I've stated that like back in the day, some of the same problems as this, like lack of interest, waning developer support, but what has become more problematic in recent times is actually Google's stance on the ROM scene, although they haven't said anything specifically. The biggest problem facing Android ROM projects right now is, like I say, not a lack of interest or even effort from the dev teams behind them. It's actually from Google's recent changes to how the Android open source project, or AOSP, source code is released. The company actually didn't drop all builds on the very same day with Android 16, as it had with every preceding update beyond this. This had an unfortunate knock-on effect for ROMs, as the building blocks required to update and build on those new versions is not available in such a timely manner as it once was. Whether it's a hangover from the Pixel Android team merger or something completely unrelated, there is definitely a problem here on Google's side. Delays to AOSP releases alongside Android platform updates cause significant headaches for those behind those largest custom ROMs. So if the ROM you're looking at is focused on privacy and security, for instance, well, it might not be able to be as secure until AOSP releases do catch up. This puts a lot of the scene at risk, and it means projects do and can grind to a halt. Take, for example, LineageOS 23.0. While it is based on Android 16, it actually lacks the material-free expressive changes and visual updates that were added in Android 16 QPR1. Luckily, it could signal a return to form though, as of this video going live, QPR1 was released to AOSP just before it was launched on Pixel phones in December 2023. So there is some good news there. We're not convinced Android will go closed source, if you're wondering about that, but you can kind of understand fan frustration at these delays, as it means your favorite project does grind to a halt. Now, the biggest question is whether a custom ROM on your phone is even worth it now, even if more projects start to emerge. And I think for many, sadly, probably not. There are some very compelling reasons though to at least take a look at a custom ROM for your Android phone, tablet, or even TV box. One of my personal favorites is the ability to bleed new life into an old piece of technology. And as phones have become more and more powerful, I do think the need to upgrade has kind of been diminished drastically year over year, as your phone is not slowing down like it used to. While some of the biggest brands do also offer 7-year update plans, not every device is eligible for an extensive support length. You might have a phone that is ending a 4-year cycle of irregular patches and maybe 3 years of updates before that, but are still happy to keep hold of it because you like the hardware and you're taking good care of it. In that specific case, I do think a custom ROM is a great way to give you a little bit more security, safety, and hopefully the ability to squeeze a few more years out of that companion in your pocket. I do also think lots of brands still have overbearing software, just is what it is at this stage. Might be worth it to look at a custom ROM if you want a cleaner experience or just a little bit more control than is available by default. That, as I say, it's a valid reason to look at a custom ROM. But I would say go and check out the various sites, projects, and even subreddits dedicated to your devices to get a real feel for the ROM before you get started. And I will leave some links down in the description below if you do want to take a look at some of the bigger projects. It might help you out, find out where you need to go. I want to ask you though, do you think that this is probably the end of the road for custom ROMs? I hope not personally, but I do think ROM usage it's definitely diminished a lot since those early days. But are you still a ROMaholic or pine for those old days like some of us do? Let me know down in the comment sections below. I genuinely don't think we'll get another era quite like those early CyanogenMod days. It was so exciting. I'd love to go back to those times because, yeah, there was nothing quite like it, which is really sad to say out loud. Cheers for watching though, and I'll speak to you later.